Hey guys, we got an awesome video on tap right now today. We've been on a turd walk. We've covered about 6 miles today on 2 different walks. I want to focus this video on the second walk. We found a rendezvous site today. We got confirmation. I've known there's been one in there. Never quite knew where it was. We picked today. There's an ultra marathon race going on. There's a lot of people in the woods. I figured this would be a great day to just go in there, look for the turds, the sign, the scat, tracks that I need to confirm that they're in here, they're using it. But guys, we got a better result than that. We actually had a coyote howl at us, did a warning howl at us. My scent went down in there and he booger barked, and I believe you're going to be able to hear it on the audio. We'll boost that audio a little bit to make sure you hear it, but I can already hear it on the recorded soundtrack. So yeah, I've brought the whiteboard out. I'm gonna lay out to you how this turd walk went and just give you some details on what my purpose was today, how the turd walk helped me, and how I was able to now have several locations already lined up on my hunting app to get ready for this season. I know now how I'm gonna go in there and how I'm gonna set up on these coyotes. This is where the rubber meets the road, guys, when you're out here in the big woods trying to figure out where you need to be hunting, because it's so vast. You know, you got to start narrowing it down somehow, and there's no better way than to get your boots on and go out and go walking. It's a good mile to the top, so it's gonna be a little hike. We're 200 yards from the creek, and we got a fresh scat, boys and girls. Dung beetles are still on it. Check them out, man. Where y'all going, huh? Where y'all going? Boy, that thing's got a lot of hair in it. Right there's the stream. Right down there. Right there's that yote scat. I wouldn't be surprised if that thing was laid last night. Yeah, son. I can't wait to see what we got on this mountain. I'm about a half a mile from that scat, and I've crossed several muddy spots like that right there and this right here, and I have yet to see a coyote track in any of this dirt. And that tells me he ain't coming from this bottom, or he ain't coming from this top. He came down that point last night and hit those that camp down there, and he just simply went around it, went about his business. I'm trying to develop a route off the top of that mountain because I still want to hunt that thing during deer season. And down here where this camp is, where I parked, during deer season, there's always a camp there, and I don't want to go in there. All right. How you doing? I don't want to go in there, and that dude scared the shit out of me, I ain't gonna lie. I didn't hear him coming. Man, that's a lanky dude. Daggone Bigfoot running around up here, boys. Anyway, you know, if I want to come in here and hunt on this, I don't want to have to park right here. So today I'm trying to mark a route off the top of the mountain. All right, guys, here we go. Got our first nice predator scat here. Get a stick here, start digging. Okay. More than likely. That's not that old. You can see it's still kind of gooey right in there. It's twisted a lot. It's got a lot of twist in it. Doesn't appear to be real hard yet. There's no green. Look at there. That's pretty fresh. That's our coyote, boys and girls. Anyway, what I'm looking for up here is more than likely there's going to be, I'm going to find a group of turds up here. Probably, I don't know, 100 yards apart, 50 yards apart. It's not going to be until we get on top up here probably. But that's what I'm expecting to see up here. And if I see that, I know I'm getting used to real close to a potential rendezvous site. mile and 3/4. So, mile and 3/4 back. So we'll be at 3.5 miles plus 2 3/4. Hey. That's a coyote right down here. We got a coyote. He hit my trail. Very interesting. All right, cool. I got 2 orbs dropped down in here. 2 orbs. One if I come in off that other mountain and one if I come up here. Dude. Always bring a nice meat snack with you. Archer's Meat Snacks. Grass-fed beef. None of the fillers you don't want. Now, I'm not sponsored by these guys, but dude, if you got a Kroger's in your neighborhood, these little Archer Meat Snacks are pretty darn good. It is grass-fed beef. Very little sugar. 0 sugar, it says. 4 grams of protein. Bring a few of these with you. All right, battery's getting low. Get back to it. All right, guys. Right on the other side of this is thicker than your mom's broom switch. But here on the front, this is the east side, kind of southeast side. It's just open. This was where the burn was. The burn kind of stopped right on the point of this ridge. And just on the other side of that burn, that's where that coyote just howled at me 45 minutes ago. I'm telling you guys, clear cuts and burns, man. Something about them. This walk right here today started 5 years ago when I saw that coyote in my headlights cross the road and come up in here about 5 o'clock in the morning. Heck, I was going up in here trout fishing. I didn't even have coyotes on my mind. By that time, bloop, out through the brush he goes, crosses the road, up on the hill. Dadgum, I got to thinking about it, and I was like, I'm gonna get after you one of these days. Well, hey guys, welcome to the analysis. I know you're probably wondering what the heck am I looking at, and I'm not the greatest artist in the world, so you're gonna have to bear with me here. But I wanted to lay this out for you so you could get an understanding of what happened on this turd walk, how important it was for me, and how this turd walk now has just helped me to determine several calling locations on the map that I've drawn here. So obviously the blue lines are a watershed. The green lines are my best attempt at give you the shape of kind of the mountain. There's kind of a saddle right here. This contour here actually forms a little bench in here and then comes out to kind of come out here and join this ridge here, which kind of comes on back. Let me just take that one back out. So this is kind of the shape of the landscape I was in today. I started down here at this is a camp. There was people camped there this weekend, and this is often a deer camp. And so I parked right here, across the stream here, and 50 yards into my turd walk, there's a fresh scat right there. And my turd walk brought me up in here, and I came all the way back in here, and then I began to ascend this ridge, and my turd walk took me all the way out here. And the purpose of this turd walk was to get to this intersection out here where there's another trail going out this mountain, and this trail keeps going this way, and there's a small trail that goes that way. So there's some major crossroads up here at the corner. And the purpose of this turd walk was 5 years ago I had a coyote. There's also a major blacktop road down here at the bottom. Nice hard top road, and I was going up the mountain one time 5 years ago and had a coyote cross the road in my headlights. So I marked where he crossed that road and where he crossed that intersection, or crossed this stream and I saw that he was coming up into this mountain here. So I've been wanting to kind of get up in here and figure out where this rendezvous site is, because if he's crossing that road going up in here at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, he's going to bed. So we finally had a chance. There was a marathon or an ultra marathon race this past weekend up in this mountain. As a matter of fact, the trail was up here on the top where they were running. They were coming up through the bottom here and going up and coming back down. So I figured this is a great weekend to go in here and just look for the scat, the sign, the tracks, and just see if I could learn anything about the area and not be too invasive pre-season like this. Normally I'd be going in with a shotgun, and but it's not season yet. So 5 minutes into my turd walk, major fresh turd laid within 24 hours of when I found it. Turd walk brought me up into here. Second coyote turd I found was here. And looking back at the video and watching how I was poking through that turd, I actually think it was two turds. And one of them was an old turd, and a coyote freshened it back up. Now and he pooped right on the same turd. So sometimes that can be an indication of a coyote remarking his area. It can also be an indication of an opposing coyote marking that area where some other coyote had marked. I do want to make note of one thing. When I came up through this bottom, I was looking for the tracks of the coyote that made this scat the night before I was there. And this is a good 3/4 of a mile, maybe a half a mile right here. And I had probably 15 different mud holes that coyote would have had to walk past in order to get here if he was coming from over here. But I didn't find a single track. There is another ridge that comes down over here that kind of follows the creek here. Let me do another contour line. Big, long, skinny ridge that kind of wraps around from up in here. My feeling is that coyote came down here, was fixing to come out and cross the road here, go up on this other mountain and out into the farmland. But when he saw this camp right here, he marked that 100 yards away from that camp with a danger turd, saying, hey, the rest of you guys don't go through here. And he simply just got in the creek, went down in here, got on this road, went down to the pass in the mountain, and got out into the farmland, went about his business. It may have been the same coyote that's working where we ended up having that coyote sound off. But my main goal, what I thought I was going to find when I got up here, my main goal was to turd walk this and go all the way up here. There's a big north side over here, and that's where I was assuming the rendezvous site may have been. And so I was expecting to find, a turd here, 100 yards down from the intersection, maybe one at the intersection, maybe one here, and maybe one out here, maybe one out here. I was hoping to find some kind of a, conglomeration of turds there, which would tell me that I'm getting close to that rendezvous site, which I assumed was up in here somewhere. But we turned around, decided not to go out this way because it's a greater distance than what I anticipated. But I am going to look for a way to come in there to hunt this area. This is the other option, to come in this way. We were coming back out. I probably went 50 yards from that intersection, and I was standing right here talking, and all of a sudden I heard a coyote booger bark me, and that's the line that sound came from. I don't know exactly how far away he was, but it sounded like he was maybe 500 yards away, 400 to 500 yards away, and it's exactly 500 yards from where I stood to where this bench is right above this water. Okay? So, he messed up, he gave me his location. So now I've got something to work with. So from a calling standpoint, when I come in here, let's say I get a wind that is maybe following this arrow I drew, the direction of his sound, where it came from. If I come in here to hunt, I'm going to come up this road, but instead of coming around here, I'm not going to make any sounds. I'm not going to call from this road. I'm going to probably sneak across here, maybe get on this point or that point, 150 yards down off of the road here, off of this trail, and try to get adjacent to this area. So what I did is I dropped a blue orb on my hunting app, It's just a round circle that's shaded blue. And my hunting app gives me a diameter, and I made that 150 yard diameter right here, or yeah, which gives, I'm sorry, that's a radius, which gives me a 300 yard diameter, which means when I come in here to set up and call, I know I don't want to get any closer than the outside perimeter of this orb I dropped. And I know that I'm close enough to get my sound in there. The wind is going to determine how I come in, but the lay of the ground itself is going to determine how I pinch the coyote down. And I'll look for a place somewhere over here that pinches that coyote down. You know, there might be a little crease or a little draw, you know, a little crease or a little fold in the ground that coyote will feel comfortable moving in to get up into this saddle if I make a sound. The other thing I did, I realized that over here I dropped another orb right on this side of this ridge right here. I dropped another small orb right here. And that's probably from where that coyote sounded off to there is probably 400 yards, I'd be my guess. And the reason I dropped an orb here is because this is a pine thicket over here. I could see it on my satellite view. I've got pines right in here. They actually kind of come out here in an oblong shape, but I just have to drop a round orb. And that orb is much smaller, maybe 50 or 75 yards across. When I'm not 100% sure where the coyote is, I'll drop a bigger orb like this that's maybe 300 yards across. All I know is there's a bench in here, but I don't know where on that bench he is. So I put a big orb in there so I don't get too close to him and end up spooking him. But when I see cover like this and I know, hey, this little 75-yard pocket of pines here, I'm going to keep that orb small so that when I come in here, I can get a little bit closer to it. It's a little bit more of an exact location. And the other thing I did, there's a nice little place right here on the map that looks like, so I dropped an orb right here, another blue orb. And what that means, these small little blue orbs what that means is I'm going to come into this location very slowly and very quietly and very deliberately and call just to this area with very quiet sounds, very stealthy sets. And it might take me half a day to work my way in to call this big bowl. This bowl, somewhere in this bowl, is where those coyotes are hanging out. Now, that doesn't mean because I heard him on this line that every time I come in here that he may not be here in the pines, or he might be bedded down here on this point or bedded over here. So, you know, you might ask, well, Mike, why don't you just come into one spot and do a little bigger sound and call the whole area? And if you think about that, the answer is pretty obvious, because you don't know where exactly the coyote is. And so when you don't know that, you don't know. He might come in from the way you don't want him to come in. You know, the downwind side. If he's bedded out on this point out here, and I came in here to call these pines, and I didn't work myself over here and call this point over here from here, I just went upwind of that coyote if the wind is coming across here. And I went in there and called. They slipped, 50, 100 yards to the downwind, had me busted. I never even knew they were there. And I just assumed they never heard me, never saw me, and I didn't even know. I just ruined my chances at this set, probably for future events as well. So what I did is the coyote gave me a location, and I started dropping orbs based on the satellite view, what looked like nice shaded cover areas. I got a couple orbs over here, a couple more orbs out here. When I come in to call this, I'm going to be working my way in very slowly, hitting each spot, doing real quiet sounds. You know, I could go on this ridge right here and hit my sound on 20 on the Fox Pro, the Hellcat or Shockwave, whatever you name, whatever call you got. Put the sound up on 20, and every coyote, because I'm on this top point, every coyote within a mile and a half is going to hear me, is going to hear that. And I don't want to do that, because you're working tight cover, and you have to control how the coyotes get to you, because there's cover all around you. And you know, they don't have to work real hard to get your wind. So You have to work hard at making small sounds, small sets, so that you can control the ground that they can respond from by doing that, and work your way in slowly till you get to the kill zone. And that's how you get it done. So yeah, I hope that helps. I know I'm not the greatest artist in the world, obviously, but yeah. Take note of one thing. In one of my other videos, Finding Mountain Predators, if you look that video up, I talk about how a good place, coyotes are very fond of just dumping off the side of the mountain somewhere. And this is an area, like I explained in that video, where you got a long running ridge here, small little saddle here, a long running ridge that goes down, but the trail, the walking trail, hiking trail, mountain biking trail, game trail, whatever it is, turns and follows the shape of the ridge, and there's no trails down in here. It's very common for coyotes to dump off that turn and come down in here and lay up 300 or 400 yards off that trail and be near that trail. In fact, at this location, they'd probably be downwind of that trail all day. And also, wanted to give you a tip. This is north right here. The weather was pretty warm this weekend, pretty hot, in the upper 80s while I was out hiking. And these coyotes were bedded on the north side of this ridge, of this shoulder here. They probably likely had, they're actually kind of northeast of the main ridge here, northeast of the trail. Very common thing. So, yeah, my intuition told me where that coyote crossed, somewhere in this bowl or somewhere on this top is where this rendezvous site would be. And that coyote messed up when he booger barked me today. So yeah, that's how we get it done. That's how you start narrowing it down. You got to get your boots on the ground. Like I said, this path took me 1.75 miles to this top, so I had another 1.75 miles back. Probably had another 1.75 miles out the mountain, and then another 1.5 miles to get back to my car. So that was a little bit more than what I'd want to bite off after already doing a hike in the morning. So I decided to just turn around, and thank God I did, because when I got 50 yards back down the trail, he was warning barking down in here. I wouldn't have done this had it not been for that ultra marathon in the woods. We had tons of people on this trail all weekend, and going up this bottom is wrapping around. So, that's something else to keep in mind. The actual rendezvous site of these coyotes may actually be where I suspected them, but all that activity over there has pushed them down into here. So, got to keep that in mind too. So, yeah. So when you come into places that you've rendezvoused them and you've located them, maybe I down here at the opening of this hollow, I get down here in my car and howl at them one night, just see if they're up in here. I don't hear them, but I hear them over on this other top. Well, that'll tell me that they're probably rendezvousing over here on this north side of the main mountain, not just the north side of this shoulder here. So, yeah. But hey, they got what they need. They got cover. They got shade. This is an old clear cut. When you saw the burn up there, the burn of this mountain basically follows this ridge right here. And all of this has been burned down to about where this creek is here. This is a big burn in here on this whole hillside. It actually goes on around the bowl here. But all of this was an old clear cut, and none of it's burned. But down on this other mountain, there's another section of burn that is much lower on the mountain. So there's new burn down here. I got old clear cut in here, which is probably 25 years old. It's all grown up again. It's hard to even tell it's a clear cut. But there are some skidder trails through there that are marked on the map. So, and it's outlined as a clear cut. That's, I think, 15 years old or 20 years old, something like that. So that's why they're there. They got cover. They got shade. They got water. They got a nice bench down in here to lay up on. Yeah. We're going to go get a couple of these guys. Wait and see. Well, that's it, guys. I hope that this was a helpful video. We started out with a fairly unmarked up map, and now we got scribble marks all over the place. hopefully you were able to follow along with that, and it made some sense to you. All right, y'all have a good one, and good luck this year. Hope you get lots of fur on the ground.